Welcome back, and today it's all about the Apple Watch Series 5. I'll show you an unboxing, talk about the main features, my likes, dislikes, big dislikes, and finally a recommendation to buy or not. Now, I've been using this new 44mm space gray aluminum Series 5 watch for the last few weeks, so I know what it's like. I was going to do an outdoor montage of it, but it's just too contrived. I wasn't going to show something that I didn't personally use it for. Later in the video, I'll tell you why. The first thing you notice in classic Apple fashion is the beauty of the design of the unboxing experience. The box is nice and as exciting as boxes go. Your watch comes in a little pouch that's an Alcantara type material, and it feels like Apple thinks that your watch is precious, and so should you. Removing the watch from the pouch is a very intimate process and highlights that you are paying for that tiny piece of hardware more than anything. Once you hold it in your hands, you notice the extremely well-built nature of the Apple Watch. It's expertly crafted and no detail is left to chance. I think it's one of the best designed Apple products out there today. The watch comes with all the essentials to get started, which includes the straps in 2 sizes, charger, and documentation. Well, the watch itself too. I like the art in the box, which shows some combinations of the watch and wristbands. I thought that was a nice little touch. The main features of the Series 5 that are not available in the Series 4 are the always-on screen and the compass. Some of the features that are available on this watch and other models worth mentioning are the fact that it's water resistant up to 50 meters. You can swim in it. This one and the previous one have an ECG monitor in some regions. There's obviously a heart rate monitor, a barometer, fall detection capability, GPS, 32 gigs of storage, and a full workout kit suite for tracking workouts. I'm going to start with what's good about the Apple Watch 5. The Series 5 is just good at what it does. I'm not going to go into the history of the Apple Watch, but I will say that although Apple didn't create the wearables market, they were the innovators that people followed. It feels almost like other manufacturers wait for Apple to make a move in order to validate a market trend. Think of removing the fingerprint sensor from the high-end iPhones, or removing the 3.5mm jacks on them too. It's also important to remember that for a large number of iPhone users, and yes, that doesn't mean everyone, it's not a question of Apple Watch versus another smartwatch, but it's a question of not having anything or having an Apple Watch in that segment, or keeping my current Apple Watch or getting a new Apple Watch. Those are, I think, the main questions that people are asking themselves. Now, I know there are some people who end up with a Garmin smartwatch or a Fitbit, which are both really good at what they do too, and Fitbit is a quite common sight these days. So what's really good about these watches? For one, the Series 5 stays on all the time. That is one of the best features for the watch, and one of only 2 real changes from last year's model. I had a Series 1 when it launched, and after a while the wrist movement became a pain. It's like that flick that you do just to see what's going on your phone. It was hard to tell the time discreetly, especially if you were in a meeting or talking to someone and not wanting to look rude. But I think the single best, most important change now is the always-on screen feature. That alone is why I personally went back to wearing an Apple Watch with the release of the Series 5. The new clock faces are well designed and customizable. In fact, what makes the Apple Watch very useful is quite similar to what makes telemetric time useful. I know it sounds a little bit out there, but hear me out. I no longer need to ask Siri about the weather or reach for my phone whenever I need a tidbit of information. I have it right there on my wrist and can pick out my outfit for the day by taking a look at the temperature really quick. I also have my calendar reminder always set, so I know if there's an early meeting, for example. I like checking my heart rate every now and then, so that's quickly available too, and I also like that they gave the option to keep the digital time. It's all about bite-sized information for the normal user. I personally don't use the watch as a fitness motivator, but I do know a lot of people who do. One telltale sign that the wearables market is very intertwined with fitness is just how much has gone into the various fitness tracking options development. The nice thing is, when I do decide to work out, I much rather have it on me than not. The apps on the Apple Watch force you to do less. Spotify doesn't give you a ton of options. Just pick what you want to listen to and get on with it. News only gives you 5 stories, and so on. It's not meant to be used like an iPhone, otherwise the battery would drain quick too. But the best part of that is that it means that instead of pulling out your phone from your pocket and getting sucked into a YouTube video when all you really wanted to do was check the time, you can just glance at the watch, check the notifications, and since it's annoying to respond to them, you only respond to important stuff. I really like that. Another thing I really like is that the watch looks good and is acceptable to be worn whether it's with a suit or with a running outfit. And it's light, which might not sound like much, but lightness makes you less annoyed by the watch. A heavy watch tends to become something I keep in storage more than wear. Another thing I began to enjoy is changing the watch face to match an outfit. It's a bit gimmicky, I'll give you that, but it makes the customization part of the watch fun every now and then when you remember to do it or feel like doing it. Unlocking your MacBook Pro or iMac with the watch is pretty cool too. Paying on the go is another big convenience, which leads me to one of the best parts of owning one: travel. When we travel, we're unfamiliar with a lot of what's going on around us. We need to know the weather, get directions, pay for stuff, and show our passes for all the events or transport we need to take, because most of them are booked on our phones today. Here's where the Apple Watch really shines, for me at least. It does all of that and reminds me that your exploration has paid off health-wise too. The wallet feature is still one of my favorites, and having it on your wrist just makes life so much easier. And instead of getting to your phone to check out directions to the park you're walking to, you can really just glance and make sure you're on the right track, making the compass one of the most sensible additions to the Apple Watch. There are some things that are admittedly annoying about the Apple Watch, and surprisingly in its 5th generation. You'd think they'd have ironed that out by now. One of the big ones is airplane mode. Mirroring your iPhone's airplane mode tends to send the Apple Watch into it too, but it doesn't come out of it when your watch is back to normal. I had experienced this enough, so I had to disable the mirroring function, but after that it tends to work fine, but I would have liked the ability to get in and out of airplane mode a little more easily. You also can't change the ringtone of the Apple Watch. It's not like I want the latest NSYNC tune to notify me of a call, but it would be nice to put in a simple sound reminder that I liked. I ended up only keeping the haptics on, which is really not that bad at all, but it's silly to think that there's only one tone for the watch's calls and messages. The Apple Watch does like to be glitchy every now and then. It sometimes decides it won't notify you of things, and you end up having to reset the watch, but only after you feel something is off, which can be annoying when it happens frequently. Another one qualm I have is that almost all of the health-related new features are not available globally. I get it, there are regulations that they have to go through, so I can really understand why. The ECG monitor and the AFib detector are all super useful, especially for people who do have heart conditions and underlying ones they're not aware of. It's a shame that these things are not available to a global market. I mean, living here in Kuwait doesn't look like that will change anytime soon, but I'm sure those features are great, although I can't give my opinion about them. If you happen to be on vacation around the world and live in the US, or if you live outside the US and happen to visit the States, then don't buy an Apple Watch on your visit. I made that mistake and found that the LTE part of the phone will not work. The hardware is actually different, so it's not a software fix. For me, it didn't annoy me much because I ended up with a slightly better battery compared to the GPS model, since no batteries drained from the cellular network. Here's my main issue with the Apple Watch 5. Now, I can't really find much to complain about. These are just my general opinions. The watch can go underwater, in your shower, run with you, network with you, tell you where you are, listen to music and not scratch up easily, and a host of features that would take me an hour to go through. It's really a superb product. But if I had one major issue in the 5th generation of the Apple Watch, it would be the battery life. Forget to charge it and the watch is useless. I mean, naturally, since it's a smartwatch. Now I know that the screen is always on, and I agree that the watch will get you through the day with an always on screen, but it would have been nice to at least have a day and a half, considering the Huawei is offering watches with 14 days battery life, and I believe they're always on too. And the good thing about the Apple Watch is that there aren't too many gimmicks. I mean, the Apple Watch is concise and deliberate about what it does and doesn't do. I really like focused products like that. There's no question about what it's used for. It would be this. When you first put it on, it's fun. Then it's useful, and after a while you forget it's there. But when you forget to put it on and leave your home, you realize just how big of an impact it has on you. So, that leads me to the recommendation. I mean, the recommendation for this product is quite easy. I think it's a valuable tool, especially at its lowest price point. I think they go for about $399. So personally, I prefer to pay for the lower price product and not feel too bad about replacing the watch once a year if I had to, or once every 2 years. Especially if the features released are the ones I personally want improved. If you have a Series 4 and regularly hike and need a compass for better accuracy, it's worth the upgrade. If you have a Series 4 and can really benefit from the always on screen, it's worth the upgrade. Otherwise, the Series 4 is a great watch, and it would be hard to recommend an upgrade if those two features don't mean much to you. Coming from a Series 3 or lower, you'll see huge improvements. Mainly, the screen is rounded off, it's a little larger, and it's far more appealing than the older watches. It also has a host of better features than the Series 3, making the Series 5 a no-brainer if you use your Series 3 daily. The things I do look out for at this stage of the watch's life cycle is battery life. If the battery life were extended to 2 days, for example, that would be enough for me to switch to a newer model next year. I would also consider a future upgrade if the form factor goes through a revolution like the iPhone is expected to. That would be a welcome upgrade. So if style isn't the biggest thing on your mind and the Apple Watch's usefulness is the key factor for your decision making, go for the cheap one. It'll do everything the expensive one does, and then change it when you feel like changing it without feeling like you broke the bank too hard. And I really do think this Apple Watch is worth it. Thank you for watching, and if you found that review helpful, please consider subscribing and liking the video.